Hello viewers, I'm Kateregga Yusufu, ICT tutor and a teachers president on a new curriculum at the Trinity College Nabingo, Wakiso Metropolitan, that is to say Entebbe, Kajansi, Nansana and other areas, so long as they are in a Wakiso district. In this tutorial, we are going to have a summary or a review, or we are going to look at the major aspects in this new competence-based curriculum. Very many teachers have been making mistakes while teaching senior 1 students. That's why I came up with an idea of developing a tutorial that will enable my comrades in the teaching profession to teach these learners. If you want to access this tutorial, you just follow me on my Twitter handle at Yusuf Kateregga, my YouTube channel, Kateregga Yusufu, my email address at Kateregga Yusufu himself at gmail.com, and my telephone number is there on the screen. So we are going to start with the aspects in this new curriculum. Can we have a review? We have got the generic skills, the key learning outcomes, values, cross-cutting issues, activity of integration, rationale, learners' books, teacher's guide, syllabus book, then assessment, that is to say formative and summative assessment, ICT integration, learning outcomes, suggested learning activities, and sample assessment strategies, or pedagogy, evaluation of learners, scheme of work and lesson plan development, time allocation per topic or per chapter, then record keeping. Then we have objectives of training teachers in the content of the new curriculum. Why is it important to teach teachers this new curriculum? 1, to create awareness among implementers and reasons for the review of the lower secondary curriculum, to share information on changes that have been made in the new curriculum, to build the capacity of teachers and implement the CBC, that is competence-based curriculum. Those are the aims for this new curriculum. Then we have got what we call learning pillars according to the competence-based curriculum. And we've got a formula that is KUSIVA. K stands for knowledge, U stands for understanding, S stands for skills, V stands for values, and A stands for attitude. Where do we apply KUSIVA? When we are making learning outcomes, you have got a chapter, then that chapter must have the learning outcomes. Which competency are you looking at? For example, I'm going to teach introduction to computer. What is the competency I'm looking at? The competence I'm looking at is learners will be able to define what is a computer. Now, while defining the computer, where can I apply KUSIVA? I'm looking for the knowledge and understanding. Have the learners understood? Have the learners understood the concept? Then teacher's role or duties in class. This is in the form of a triangle. That's why we call it a triangulation. This new curriculum is based on a triangulation manner of teaching. How? After a teacher giving out an activity in a class, he must supervise the learners. The learners must converse, that is conversation, and the learners must come up with a product, that is a P. So the formula is COP, conversation, observation, and product. In the old curriculum, that is the knowledge-based curriculum, a teacher comes in class, dictates notes, and turns his tail and go away out of the class. But in this new curriculum, a teacher, before teaching, he is supposed to give out an activity to the learners, and he must supervise. He is supposed to act as a facilitator of these learners. Then I have elaborated more about conversation, observation, and the product. Under product, a teacher appraises the learner's work. Observation, here a teacher watches learner's work, the working. Then conversation, a teacher asks questions and talk to the learners. Then what about learners' activities in the learning process? I have given out an activity to learners. Before doing that activity, a learner is supposed to do what? We have a formula called DIA. D stands for discovery, explanatory, analysis, and application. Absence of that DIA, no learning is considered. Because this new curriculum, we start from complex to simplex, from big to small. So learners are given a chance to discover and analyze and apply knowledge by using that formula. Then other points to note by the teacher before teaching the learners, that is senior 1. Teachers should not give notes to learners. It is a student to present notes to the teacher. The students are the ones to present notes to what? To teachers, not teachers to give notes to learners. Then a teacher is more of a facilitator and a guide. This is a learner-centered curriculum, not a teacher-centered what? Curriculum. A teacher is seen as a facilitator. Then another one, creativity and innovation. A teacher is teaching pressure in liquids. How can you make the learners to understand the concept very well? You get a bottle, you drill holes, like 3 holes on it, then you pour water inside. You explain to these learners, or you can give a chance to learners to go and get bottles for themselves. They drill holes and they pour water. Then after pouring water in the bottles, they will see that the first hole pours water with a low speed. The second hole pours water with a high speed. And the third hole pours water with the fastest speed. The learners will be in position to commemorate what you have taught to them. And you are making them to be lifelong learners. Learners with a long-term memory, not a short-term memory. Then we have subjects that are on the curriculum, the CBC, competence-based curriculum subjects. A student should take a maximum of 12 subjects, of which 11 are compulsory. A student is required to choose only one subject from the electives. Electives are the optional subjects. We are going to see these subjects that are compulsory and the electives. These are the compulsory subjects at senior 1 and senior 2. And English, entrepreneurship, mathematics, biology, physics, geography, Kiswahili, physical education, CRE or IRE, history, and political education. These are the compulsory subjects that must be done by a senior 1 and senior 2 student in this competence-based curriculum. Then electives, or the optional subjects. Here, a learner is supposed to choose only one subject to make 12 subjects. We have got agriculture, ICT, foreign languages like French, local languages like Luganda, Lusoga, Lunyankole, Lutolo, what have you. Then art and design, performing art, technology and design. Under technology and design, we have got technical drawing, woodwork and metalwork. Then nutrition and food technology. Compulsory subjects at senior 3 and senior 4. Senior 2, we have seen 12 subjects that are compulsory. But in Senior 3 and Senior 4, a learner is supposed to take compulsory subjects that are 7. And he chooses 2 subjects from the electives to make 9 subjects. So these are the subjects that are compulsory in Senior 3. Those ones. Then a student is supposed to take a maximum of 9 subjects where 7 are compulsory and 2 are optional. Maybe you have understood. Here a student needs to add like maybe ICT and physical education to make a total of 9. Then key learning outcomes of the new curriculum. The curriculum designers realized that this new curriculum, while designing the new curriculum, they looked at the key learning outcomes, the output. A learner is taught from Senior 1 up to Senior 4. Now, what are the expected outputs from that learners? So they baptized those outputs in the form of key learning outcomes. And we have got a cross-section of them. And the first one is self-assured individuals. The old curriculum is more of theory than practical. But this new curriculum is more of practical than what? Theories. We are looking at producing learners who can demonstrate self-motivation, self-management, and self-esteem. Learners who know their own preferences, strengths, and limitations. Let me tell you, I was at the campus, Nkumba University, in 2011. And I didn't know even the course I was supposed to do. I went to the campus and I asked for the course prospectus. They gave me the prospectus and I looked at the courses, the different courses. And I found myself doing ICT. But I was supposed maybe to be a biology teacher, a physician. I was supposed to be a doctor. I was supposed to be an engineer. But I was not groomed by my teachers. So this new curriculum grooms a learner on which area of discipline he or she can concentrate on. Then adjust their behaviors and language appropriately to different social situations. A knowledge-based student is incompetent in case he or she is given a chance to give a speech. For example, the president has come in an area, a given area, the knowledge-based student will not make it up. But a competence-based student will come and deliver a speech because he got the skills from various subjects. The generic skill of communication was taught to him or her. Then next, another key learning outcome, responsible and patriotic citizens. We want citizens who are responsible and patriotic, citizens who love their country, students who greet people in the society, in the community, students, learners who are well-mannered, who are morally upright. Then we want learners who can promote the development of indigenous cultures and languages and appreciate diversity, equity, and inclusiveness. Learners who do not dress like to meet my concern. Learners who do not actually put on topless dresses when it comes to ladies. Then next, another key learning outcome is lifelong learners. We want learners who are not, who cannot actually easily forget what was taught to them. Learners who can plan, reflect, and direct their own learning. Learners who actively seek lifelong learning opportunities for personal and professional development. Do you know a singer called Eddie Kenzo? Eddie Kenzo, he realized that he had a life skill of singing and he has made it to the maximum. That's what we want. We want to look at it, to find out the skills these learners are having. then we develop them. And at a given time T, you will find that we have produced lifelong learners, learners who cannot forget easily. Then another key learning outcome, positive contributors to society. Positive. We want learners who are positive contributors to the society. How? A neighbor has been attacked by thieves, but all of a sudden, all fortunately, a learner was available at the scene. A learner will write an appropriate statement to the police in order to save the neighbor, meaning that that learner acquired the skills, the generic skills of critical thinking and problem solving. He has solved that problem. Learners who can demonstrate and understand the emerging needs of society and the economy. The emerging needs of the society and the economy. Why do you prefer studying things that will not actually help you? You study things that will what? Help you. Then next, we have now another aspect in this new curriculum, the values. This curriculum is based on a clear set of values, and these are the values that must be imparted or inculcated in these learners. And these values, my friend, you will not see them in class while teaching. You are not supposed to teach these values. The values are not taught. These values are not taught directly in lessons, nor will they be assessed, but they will inform and shape all teaching and learning. For example, respect for humanity and environment. We want learners who can respect everybody in the environment, learners who can conserve the environment, learners who can train people on how to do away with deforestation because it is a malicious damage to the environment. Learners who are hard work for self-reliance. Learners who are hard work for self-reliance. Learners who are morally upright. Learners who are creative and innovative. Learners with social harmony. In class teaching, if you allow learners to mama around, the value of social harmony will not be exhibited in your lesson. So the learners must keep quiet. If you see your learners are totally quiet in class, that is a clear manifestation that social harmony in class is in progress. National unity. Learners who protect and defend their country by not involving in mere demonstrations. National consciousness and patriotism. I talked about patriotism. That is love for one's country. Then next, we have got the generic skills. These are the skills that our learners need in case they are looking for jobs. I was admitted at a certain school, but I was given an interview because I had acquired a generic skill of communication. I communicated in an appropriate manner and I was given a job. So the generic skills we are having in this new curriculum are as follows. The first one, critical thinking and problem solving. If you give out an assignment to learners, you give them a chance to reason beyond reasonable doubt and they come up with a solution to that problem. Creativity and innovation. Learners must be creative and innovative. For example, in fine art, you can give an assignment to learners or a task. Draw a structure of a house. A learner must reason beyond reasonable doubt how a house look like. If a learner just draw a mere house without a toilet, a compound, without a resting place, without trees and what have you, that learner did not acquire do not have the generic skill of creativity and innovation. You have tasked learners to prepare a rice dish. You have tasked learners to prepare a rice dish. Then a learner comes in and says, while preparing a rice dish, you first eat the rice. You go to the shop, you buy the rice. You come back, prepare this, the charcoal stove. They light up the what? You do this and this. that learner is not creative and innovative. Then cooperation and self-directed learning. It is also a generic skill. We want learners who can cooperate with one another while in class, outside the class environment, in a community, and at the national level. We want learners who can work as a team, who knows teamwork. Mathematical computation and ICT proficiency. You know, ICT was integrated in all subjects. So we want to produce out learners who are computer literate. Learners who can use ICT as a tool to search information, to solve problems, and what have you. Learners who can calculate very well. There is a disease called dyscalculia and dysgraphia. Those diseases affect students very much. Dysgraphia, this is a disease or a disorder where a learner has a poor handwriting, a learner cannot calculate well. You tell a learner, evaluate, 1 + 1, evaluate, find out. Then a learner will just go straight and give you 2. A learner must evaluate, must say 1 egg + 1 egg equals to 2 eggs. He must show working and he must calculate very well. So in this new curriculum, learners will be able to have a generic skill of mathematical computation and ICT proficiency. They can use ICT as a tool to search information. Then next, related to this, we are not going to waste a lot of time on these generic skills, so I'm done with the generic skills. Then next, I elaborated the generic skills very well. Let me go to another stuff. Here, under communication, the generic skill of communication. A learner must listen attentively with comprehension. Talk confidently and explain ideas or opinions clearly. Read accurately and fluently. Write and present information coherently. You have given a task to a learner to write a letter to the head teacher, inviting him to their welcoming party, scheduled for maybe 17th October 2021. And this learner is going to start with a signature on top. After the signature, he will write, "Dear Sir." After writing "Dear Sir," he will write the body as a conclusion. That student do not have a generic skill of communication under writing and presenting information coherently. The information that can flow in a logical manner. Then we want learners who can use media to communicate ideas, like a computer and phones. A learner can use a computer to have a Zoom meeting, to search information pertaining fine art, pertaining chemistry, pertaining other subjects, biology, and what have you. Then next, I elaborated more about these generic skills. Let us go to other areas of discipline. Then we have got cross-cutting issues in the new competence-based curriculum. These issues cut across. That's why they were baptized as the cross-cutting issues. And the first one is environmental awareness. I'm teaching computer. How can I make my learners to be aware of the environment? We have a topic in computer called green computing. Green computing means the use of computers in a proper manner by saving power. We save what? Power. Then I can teach learners that if you can use a computer to train people on how they can protect and conserve the environment using presentation software like PowerPoint. Health awareness, life skills. Life skills. In a computer, we have got a life skill of word processing. I can train my learner to design letters, memos, reports, circulars, mail merging. That is a life skill. In fine art, Learners are taught how to make beads, how to make a basket. That is a life skill. Then other subjects also have got life skills. Are you aware that I can teach biology in a computer? I can inculcate biology. I can teach a learner biology in a computer. ICT integration. I told you initially that ICT was embedded, all integrated in all subjects, fine art, English, biology. It's a little bit problematic to find a teacher teaching learners without an ICT gadget. For example, a phone, tablets, computers, speakers, and what have you. A teacher is teaching risk management in entrepreneurship. How can you make these learners to understand risk management to the maximum? You tell them to go and carry out research using a computer, or you can bring in an image for risk people who are at risk. You portray that picture to learners using a phone and what have you. How do we use computer as a tool in other subjects? For example, field works in geography, field works in entrepreneurship. How can we use a computer? We use cameras to take photos and record videos. Then what about in demonstrations and role plays? Use audio and video recording devices. Then what about making presentations in class? We use a presentation application, for example, Microsoft PowerPoint in a computer. Then next, general assessment. The new curriculum is housed on two forms of assessment, that is formative and summative. Let us see them in details. Formative assessment. This takes place in a class. This is an assessment that takes place in a class where a teacher first gives an activity to learners before the actual lesson starts. That is formative assessment. And the teacher is supposed to be the first in a class to organize it. Learners are put in groups, and the groups are given names. For example, expendables, academic giants, and so on and so forth. Each group must have a secretary, a chairperson, and a discussant. Teachers must make a critical observation during activity or activities and make supplements to their ideas in different groups. That is formative assessment. A teacher puts students or learners in groups and assess them or give them an activity. Teachers should not consider learners' ideas wrong. I repeat, teachers should not consider learners' ideas wrong. How? I have tasked my learner to go and get for me a laptop, but all of a sudden, the learner has brought for me ice cream. I will give that learner 1 identifier, 1. I put that learner on basic because he showed me a positive attitude. Then I'm going to teach that learner that what you have bought for me is ice cream, not a computer. The learner will understand. But the teachers have got a tendency of nullifying learners' ideas. That is illogical, immoral, not only immoral, unethical in such applicability. Then this is a demonstration of formative assessment. You are seeing learners in a group, and a teacher is trying to help them to come up with a product using the other formula I told you: conversation, observation, and product under triangulation. The learners are going to come up with their ideas, then the teacher is going to build those ideas to make the learners formulate their own notes. Then next, summative assessment. What is summative? Summative comes from the word summary, to summarize. This is an assessment that takes place after a unit or at the end of a topic or at the end of the term or mid-term exams or end of year exams. Those are summative assessment. Those are clear evidence of summative assessment. Then formative assessment and summative assessment done at school will constitute 20%. And the summative assessment, that is UNEB exams, will constitute 80% in the national exams. Let me hope you have understood. Formative assessments are done in class. Summative assessments are those assessments that are given to learners at the end of a course or a topic. Are we at par? For example, activity of integration. It is a clear example of summative assessment because it is given out to learners at the end of a given topic or a chapter. Then we have got three types of assessment. Three types of assessment. The first one is assessment for learning, assessment as learning, and assessment of learning. What is assessment for learning? Assessment for learning, this is the assessment that takes place in a class. It is the same as formative assessment. Then assessment as learning and assessment of learning are the same as summative assessment. Then let us go. Summative assessment demonstration. You are seeing learners doing UNEB exams. You are seeing learners doing mock exams. You are seeing learners doing end of term exams. These exams act as summative assessment. Let me hope you have understood the definition or the term summative assessment. Then let us go on. Activity of integration. What is activity of integration? Activity of integration, this is what is to integrate first of all. To integrate is to amalgamate, to merge. When I subject my learners to a topic called ways of studying geography, I must give them, I must look at the subtopics in that topic. Those subtopics will help me to cover the entire topic. So I'm going to give my learners assessments or assignments or activities in the form of formative assessment. Are we at par? Then after giving them those assignments, at the end of the topic, I'm going to integrate all those subtopics in one topic or chapter. I come up with an activity called activity of integration. Now, what are some of the components of activity of integration? Let us proceed. Here, it is an assignment for teachers. You will do it. Then let us go straight to the point. Now, before I give out an activity of integration to learners, I must look at the competence, activities, the tools, the support materials, and the resources. Activity of integration, I'm looking for what? My topic is computer hardware. What is the competence I'm looking at? I'm looking at categories of computer hardware. For example, input hardware, processing hardware, communication hardware. I want to see that learners will be able to give categories of computer hardware. That is the competence I'm looking at. Then let us see a sample of an activity of integration and what are we supposed to bear in mind before we design or we develop an activity of integration. I gave you the definition of activity of integration. AOLS stands for activity of integration, and activities of integration will contribute 20% to the national assessment. Activities of integration will contribute 20% of the national assessment. Let us have a sample. I'm looking for the sample. Before we go to the sample, what are some of the guidelines while designing an activity of integration? One, what competency are you looking for? What learning outcomes do you need? Learning activities, materials, and tools to use. Those are the guidelines while designing or developing an activity of integration. Let us proceed. we will proceed. How to develop the following components of activity of integration, a context. Now, in the activity of integration, we must have a situation or a scenario or a context or the problem you are looking for. We must have a task, we must have the support materials and the resources. Let us see an activity of integration, and we see where we have got the context, the task, the support materials and the resources. Before we see an example of activity of integration, some teachers just come in class and give out questions like to my concern to learners. For example, a teacher for biology will come and tell learners, we are going to have an activity of integration for the topic called flowering plants. Then he will come in class and say, number 1A, define the term flowering plants. 2, explain how can you protect the flowers and what have you. Then the teacher will turn his tail and go away. My friend, you have given an activity, not an activity of integration. A teacher is teaching Christian religious education under worship. You tell learners to define what is worship. How do you worship God? A learner will say, I worship God by what? Singing, by dancing, by crying. Why do you pray? I pray because I'm forced by my parents. I pray because I want to go to heaven. I pray because I see my parents praying. Learners will give you correct answers because you developed an activity of integration that is wrong. That is what? Wrong. There must be a situation. Let us see a clear example of an activity of integration. This is an example of an activity of integration. Scenario or a situation. Question, it is question 1. Wilson is a farmer with a large plantation of coffee and a dairy farm. The people around the village have turned his plantation and farm into a model for them to learn from. Suddenly, everything went wrong when heavy rain set in and the hailstorms destroyed the coffee plantation. A few weeks later, the animals suffered a strange disease caused by bad weather and died one after the other. Your family made a decision to give support to Wilson. Now, are you seeing that information? It is a situation, the imagination. You first imagine. After imagining, where is the problem the learner is going to solve? The task. The task. What is the task in that activity of integration? The support material. These are the animals that died. Yeah? This is a support material. Then the resources. A learner is going to use what to come up with that idea? A learner is going to use what? A learner is going to use a computer as a tool to search information pertaining the questions you have asked. Now let us see the task. Using your knowledge of worship, explain what the farmer's reaction will be in relation to belief and trusting in God. Roman 2. Propose 4 ways in which Wilson needs to be supported to remain faithful to God. With a specific reference from the Bible, suggest what you can do to help Wilson via a situation. A situation takes us to the task, and the task will show us the support material. Next. This is an activity of integration for ICT. Activity of integration for ICT, and we are going to see where we are having a context, a task, and the support materials. So this is an activity of integration for ICT. Your class is planning an end-of-year party at the end of the term, scheduled to take place in the main hall on 21st November this year, starting at 8:30 a.m. This is the situation. This is the situation. The context or the problem, it is this one. The situation you are seeing. Your class is planning an end-of-year party. It is a situation or a scenario. Now, what is the task? The task is here. Word process and print a letter inviting the head teacher and members of staff to the end-of-year party with emphasis to font and paragraph. that is the support or equipment or picture, the supporting material is there. And the learning outcomes will be on font and paragraph. Then next, this is the letter, the possible response. A child or a learner has given you or has presented his or her letter in this format. The head teacher, Kateregga College School, he has written it like this. Now, as a teacher of Senior 1, a teacher of this competence-based curriculum, what are your learning outcomes? A learner has presented a letter like that. What are your learning outcomes? My learning outcomes, the emphasis I put on font and paragraph. Are paragraphs okay? Yes. Now we have a basis of evaluation. While evaluating these learners, we use relevancy, accuracy, coherence, and excellence. We are going to see it in the dual course when it comes to grading. We are going to see how we can grade these learners. A learner is not supposed to be given a 0. Let us proceed. We go on. I trained you how to come up with an activity of integration. Then reporting learner achievement. How do we report learners' achievement? Here, we look at the performance, the learner's performance. We look at the identifiers and the descriptors. We look at the learning outcomes, the output, and the basis of evaluation. Let us proceed. And the criterion. We proceed. Okay. Here we are. I told you initially that when we are assessing these learners, we use dimensions of grid. And here is the formula. Relevancy, accuracy, coherency. I know some teachers are subjected to this. Where do you use the relevancy? I have told my learners to draw a structure of a house. But I'm going to award these learners, I'm going to mark these learners out of 20. Then out of 20, what are my basis of evaluation? The basis of evaluation I'm looking at. I'm going to look at the roof of the house. I'm going to look at is the house having a compound? Is the house having a resting place? Is the house having the ventilators, the windows, and what have you? If a learner comes out with an activity where he drew a house with all what I want, under relevancy, I'm going to give that learner a 3. But if the learner did not put on roofs on the house, I will give that learner, under accuracy, I will give that learner a 2. Under coherency, where did he put the roof? He placed the roof on the window. Logical flow. Are the words flowing or are flowing in an illogical manner? I will give that learner a 1. Then for the entire activity, if that learner presented something that is extraordinary, I'm going to award him or her 1 mark for excellence. But if that learner did not show me any exceptional response beyond my expectations, I will not give that learner an excellence mark. Let us proceed. Then features of an evaluation grid. This is a clear example or display of an evaluation grid. When we are evaluating these learners, we look at the output, the basis for evaluation, relevancy, accuracy, coherence, and excellence. How? I gave my learners a task to word process a letter. My output here will be processing what? A letter. Then basis of evaluation, I'm going to look at the font, paragraph, the conclusion. This will be my basis of evaluation. Then under these ones, I will say, under font, paragraph, and conclusion, I'm going to mark these learners out of 10-10. Yeah? So I will come on relevancy. Are the fonts looking very well? Did he use a clear font? Yes. I'll give that learner a 3. Accuracy. Are the fonts okay? Yes. I'll give that learner a 3. Coherency. Are they flowing in a logical manner? I'll give that learner also what? A 3. Then I'll come on paragraph and conclusion, and I do the same. Then for the whole activity, I'm going to give that learner a 1. I'm going to give that learner a 1 to come up with 30 out of what? 30, if at all he deserves it. Then next. This is actually an example. Let us proceed. We proceed. I reported, this is an example of recording assessment scores for learners. Assessment scores for learners. I have learner B. Learner B. Learner B, in the first activity of integration, he got 2.8. Another one, he got 2.2. Another one, 2.3. These are the marks that he got at the end of year exam. Now, how do I compute? How do I come up with a report that I can show to the parent? Let us see. This is an example of a report that must be forwarded to UNEB. And we are going to see that report that can be given to a parent, a sponsor, and what have you. Let us look here. How do we come up with this one? We are going to see. I have given out a task of a letter. I marked my learner in that task, which is task 1. This one. And out of 3, the learner got a 3 identifier. I have pressed the 3 here. Another activity which I gave out may be on data management and sharing. The learner got a 3. Another activity may be on introduction to ICT. A learner got a 2 out of 3. Then also another one got a what? A 2 out of 3. And another one got a 3 out of what? 3. Out of the 5 activities, a learner is having how many? The score out of 15. If you get 3 times 5, you're going to get 15. A learner got how many out of 15? He got 13. Because remember, activities of integration will be forwarded to UNEB every year. Every year, activities of integration will be forwarded to UNEB. I'm forwarding the students' marks to UNEB. I'm going to get 13 for learner. Learner A got 13. 13 out of 15 times 20. The learner will have 17 out of 20. So these are the marks that I'm going to forward to UNEB. But I will have this grid. I will have this table for each student. Let us go to another stuff. Then, you remember, when you are calculating these identifiers, if your assignment was out of 10, a learner has got 5, but I want to convert to identifiers. How do I do it? I'm going to get 5 out of 10 times 3, which is the maximum identifier. Now, if I get like 1.2, 2.5, 2.9, 2.9 is what? We have a grade system here. The grade system for identifiers. If a learner is having 0.9 to 1.4, that learner has identifier 1. If a learner has got 1.5 to 2.4, that learner has identifier 2. If a learner has got between 2.5 to 3.0, that learner has a 3, meaning that the learner has achieved all the learning outcomes, or most of the competencies have been achieved. Now, what is the level of performance here? I can show maybe to the parent and what have you. I'm commenting on the learner's report. If the learner is having an identifier 1, I'm going to tell the parent that this learner is on basic level. If the learner is having a 2, I'm going to tell the parent that the learner is on moderate level. Dear teachers, this is a sample of the competence-based curriculum scheme of work. We have week, period, topic, competency, learning outcomes, teaching stroke learning resources, methodology, remarks, and references. And teachers, please make sure what you teach is concomitant to what you schemed. Then let us have a sample of the lesson plan. This is a lesson plan sample. Name of the school, class, and what have you. The theme, introduction to what, bichi. Now this one, I tried to make a lesson plan for ICT. My theme is introduction to ICT. The topic is computer systems. You have to check, you have to use the scheme of the syllabus book, the learner's book, and the teacher's guide in order to come up with the lesson plan. It has got the prerequisite knowledge, the teaching learning materials, and the references. Then let us have the lesson flow under the lesson plan. Lesson flow. This is the lesson flow. The first item on the lesson flow is the time order stage, the teacher activity, learner's activity, and indicators to learning, stroke, assessment. This is what must be in the lesson flow. So observe it very well, study it, and understand. Now let us have a sample of the competence-based report. Kusiva should not miss there. That is knowledge, understanding, skills, and values. Discovery, explanatory, analysis, and application, and the conversation, observation, and product. So this is a sample. Members or dear comrades in the teaching profession, you are fond of making reports whereby you put F9, you put comments, you put your initials. This competence-based report, do not entertain that rubric infringement. Do not entertain. This is what you're supposed to show to parents. For example, biology. The topic was insects. The learner achieved what? Here I'm seeing Davis is able to share personal experiences on the direct and the indirect effects of insects. This is the report that you must present to the parents. Flowering plants, classification of flowering plants. It depends on how many topics you covered and the learning activities of integration you gave out. You show to the parent that under classification of insects, Davis has skills of protecting the environment when collecting specimens for classification. You elaborate more to the teacher, or to the sponsor or to the parent. English, you're talking about food. Comment or the descriptor there. Davis can write an article using adjectives of taste when expressing his or her likes and dislikes of food item, and so on and so forth. You put all the subjects that are supposed to be on the report vis-a-vis the topics covered plus the descriptor. That is how the report must look like. Now, as I told you initially, that I'm the president of teachers at Trinity College Nabingo, Wakiso Metropolitan. Let me show you a simple video of the workshop that I attended at Trinity College Nabingo. Here is the video.
Bano bamu ku basomesa abakedde ku ssomero lya Trinity College Nabingo okwetaba mu musomo ku nkyukakyuka ezaakoleddwa mu nsomesa y'abaana kiyite curriculum. Omusomo guno gutegekeddwa ekitongole ekivunaanyizibwa ku masomo mu ggwanga ekya National Curriculum Development Center era nga gwa kukulungula sabbiiti nnamba. Abasomesa basuubirwa okusaasira kulaba nti abayizi bayize basomesebwa so si kubasomesa lukwakwayo nga bwe gubadde.
Tugisuubira okuyamba abayizi baffe okubeera abayiiya n'okumakinga n'enkyukakyuka empya eziri mu nsi.
Balina ebintu batuteereddemu okwana okubeera bakola projects bafuuka abatitenkanye nnyo.
Kyokka bano bategeeza nti obudde obubaweereddwa okutegeera enkyukakyuka ezaakoleddwa butono nnyo ddala. Nabwekityo bano balina okutya nti bandiremererwa okuzissa mu nkola.
Obudde obutuweereddwa butono naye tugende n'ekyo ekiriwo.
Mwezi nga gumu gwandibadde gutuyamba because nawo bagenda okunyigiriza ebintu tuve wano nga tetubitegedde bulungi.
Kuba engeri ekintu gye kiri ekipya kiba kyetaaga okuyigibwa step by step.
May God bless you as you participate in this noble cause, as you download and read this tutorial. One love and respect. Bravo Mr. Bob Numetekamwa. Bravo Mr. Natamba Anselbat. Bravo Mr. Namanya Onesimus, a teacher at Entebbe Bright Secondary School. Reverend Sister Teddy at Trinity College in Abingo. Madam Christine, Trinity College in Abingo. My comrades in the teaching profession at Bethel Covenant. My comrades in the teaching profession at Entebbe Bright Secondary School. Madam Grace, Mr. Herbert Kajubi, Mr. Junju Hussein, a teacher and director, Latifa Mixed Secondary School. Mr. Sergo Wilberforce, director, Latifa Mixed Secondary School, Mukono Kayunga Kabimbiri. My comrades in the teaching profession at Entebbe SS, Maryland High School, Erina, my comrade from there at Maryland High School, one love and respect. All my comrades that are going to use this manual in Uganda, East Africa, Africa, and in the whole world in particular, one love and respect. I'm Mr. Kateregga, ICT tutor. I sign out.